Hi class, we're going to continue now with the second part of the problem that we were working on. So if you'll bear with me just a moment, I want to pull up Cengage again. And this is where we were, if you'll remember. And now we're going to do the second part, which is we're going to post to the ledger account. So let me get this situated where you can see the instructions here. It says under the requirements, use the attached spreadsheet to complete parts 1 and 3. And part 1 says that on August the 1st of 2019, the balance of each account has been recorded in the appropriate balance column of the 4-column account. The word balance has been entered in the item section and a check mark has been placed in the posting reference. All right, so that's the first part. It's already been done for you on this particular spreadsheet that I'm going to show you. What we're going to be working on now is part 3, which is we're going to post to the ledger. And we're going to extend the account balance to the appropriate balance column after each posting. So what we're going to be doing is a whole lot of jumping back and forth here, class. And so it might be easier for you if you just print this out, what you've got here, so you can see it or write it down. It might be easier to do that instead of jumping back and forth. But we're going to try it, class. And believe me, I've never tried to do this online before, so it should be kind of interesting. So bear with me if we get messed up on some of these things. I'm just going to try my best to show you what needs to be done. So bear with me today as we muddle through this stuff. First of all, you can see that in the journal, your office supplies is debited for $3,150, and that this happened on August the 1st. You'll remember that we skipped over the post reference here because we haven't posted to the ledger account. And there's a process that we do in an order that we complete the posting process in. And so to do that correctly, what you would do is you would go to the spreadsheet that has the ledger on it. And we're going to look for the office supplies account first. And we're going to debit it for $3,150 from the August 1st transaction. So bear with me just a moment. I'm going to click to the spreadsheet. Let me see what it'll do for me. All right, I've got it opened up. Now I'm going to stop sharing for just a second and I'm going to share my Excel spreadsheet with you. Remember, we're copying from the journal to the spreadsheet. And the only thing I did is I clicked on the spreadsheet to open it up. You at home should be able to see your spreadsheet now. But here, you know, I've got to flip back and forth between screen shares. So just bear with me. It's not going to be a lot of fun right now. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go to my ledger. And you should be able to see your ledger now. So this is problem 24B, and it has instructions on there. And so what it's going to tell you is you want to enter the appropriate amounts in the cells. In the general ledger accounts, only the final balance of the account will be graded. So an asterisk will appear to the incorrect entries in outlined answered cells. All right, so if you see an asterisk in red, you know you've done something wrong. So hopefully we won't see that now. Also, you should be able to see up here that you need to enable editing before you can write anything in this journal. So click on Enable Editing. And once you click on that, then that little thing should go away and you should be able to enter information in the cells now. What you have to remember is what you had in the journal. In the journal, we are copying to the office supplies account. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my office supplies. I'm going to write in the date that it happened. The date that it happened was August the 1st. Notice there's a previous balance in the supplies account that came from last month. So your ledgers are just brought forward from month to month, and that balance came from last month's transactions. Notice in the post-reference here, they have a check mark there because that's just showing you that this was a balance that was brought forward from last month. There's no journal where you can find this balance. The balance was just brought forward as an ending balance from the last month. In today's date, August the 1st, we need to record the date as August 1st. Notice there's no place to record the month. We're just recording the dates for August in this problem. So August 1st, we've got a new transaction that we're going to record to the office supplies. Remember from the journal that we showed earlier, we bought supplies. So we have to pick up the page number, and the page number of that journal was page number 18. So 18 goes in here as the page number in the post reference. This stands for journal page number 18. In my journal, I debited the account for $31.50. And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to add the balances. And bear with me, class. I don't know if I can put a formula in here to add this, or I don't think they got a calculator anywhere else. So let me see if I can put a formula in here. When you're entering formulas in Excel, you always have to type an equal mark. And I'm going to click on this balance, and it's doing it for me, so that's good. The cell address of this balance is cell L16. So we're picking up L15, 115, I'm sorry. We're picking up the balance of 2,800. See how it's got that little running circle things on it? That means that it's picking up that balance. We're going to add to it. Notice I put an add sign in there. The debit here of $31.50. And when you press enter, it will calculate that balance for you. Now, what I needed to know was office supplies is an asset account. When I debited my office supplies, I'm adding to the previous balance. My new balance is $59.50. Notice I don't see any asterisks, so I must have the right things written in here. That means that I have posted to the office supplies account. Now I'm going to pick up the account number, which is located right up here. 14 is the account number. I have to enter that account number in my journal, which is in Cengage. So bear with me for just a second. And let me see if you can see, and we'll have to stop it. And we're going to have to share the screen again. And I'm going to have to share the journal where we were before. and we would have to pick up that account number, and that account number goes right here in this post reference. And I hope it's the right one because I forgot to write it down, but it might be something like account number 13 or 14 or 15. Can't remember. I think it was 15. So I wanted to show you where you put it. Now you got to flip back and pick up accounts payable at 3150. So accounts payable is going to be 3150. And this is coming from journal page number 18. That's where we got that post reference before. So I'm going to have to go to my ledger, which means I'm going to have to stop sharing, but I'm going to look for my accounts payable and I'm going to record 3150 in that transaction that happened on August the 1st. So I'm going to stop sharing. And then I'm going to go to a new share, and I'm going to share with you my Excel. And so we're back in Excel. I'm going to scroll to where I can find accounts payable. Accounts payable's right here. Let me look and see if I put, oh dear, I didn't. So I'm going to have to change my journal. The account number was 14 for office supplies. So I'm sorry about that. I didn't remember correctly. I think I put 15 in there, but it should have been 14, but we'll change it in just a second. Going back to our credit, this came to accounts payable on August the 1st. It came from journal page 18. Our accounts payable was credited for 3150. A credit to accounts payable will increase the balance that is previously there. This balance came last month that they just brought forward. So last month, at the end of the month, we owed $21,000. Now we're adding an additional amount to that $21,000 to get the new balance. You can add it on your calculator if you want to, or you can create a formula in Excel by hitting the equal sign, clicking on 21,000, and then I'm going to put a subtract sign in there, and I'm going to click on, I'm not going to put a subtract sign there, that would be wrong, because accounts payable, when you credit it, you're increasing it. I'm going to put a plus sign there, and I'm going to put 3150 here, and I'm going to enter it there. And so that gives me the correct amount. Notice I don't see any asterisks yet, so evidently I've done something right. The previous balance plus this new amount that we owe as of August 1st means we owe a total amount of $24,150. I'm going to pick up my 21 here. My account number was 21. I've got to go back to my journal and put that in. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to do a new screen share. I'm going to go to my journal. Here's my journal. I don't see my journal. Where's my journal? All right. Well, let me close this. Let me see if I can stop this for just a second. Okay, now you should be able to see your journal again. In the accounts payable post reference, I'm going to record that 21 account number. These are your account numbers. They came from the ledger. And I'm through posting the August 1st transaction. Then I'm going to move to the second transaction, which is where I have rent expense. I have it debited, and it's debited on August the 2nd. And the amount is $7,200. So I'm going to find my rent expense account in my ledger. I have to switch off to my new book, the ledger account, and I'm going to debit it for $7,200. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you again. I'm going to do a new share. And I'm going to look at my Excel. And you should be able to see your ledger. This is your ledger. And we're going to go to the rent expense account in the ledger. And I'm going to put in the date, which is August the 2nd. In my post reference, this is still coming from journal page 18. I'm going to have a debit in my rent expense for $7,200. This is being copied from the journal. And then I have to rebalance my rent expense. Remember, the balance of rent expense is always on the side of the increase. Expenses increase on the debit side, so the balance has to be on the debit side. From the previous month, we had recorded $49,000. So I'm going to add $49,000 and my $7,200 together to get the new balance in the rent expense account. To do that in Excel, I can create a formula. You must put an equal sign to create the formula, and then I'm going to click on the debit balance from last month. And this time I'm adding to my expenses because this was debited. It's going to add to the balance $7,200. You got to click on the $7,200 and hit enter. And when you do that, it has balanced this account for you. So my rent expense has a balance of $56,200. I'm going to pick up the account number. The account number this time is 52, and I'm going to place that 52 in my journal. And the only way I can show you how to do this is to stop sharing, do a new screen share. I'm going to go to my journal this time and share it with you. And I'm going to put in the rent expense the account number, which is 52. Then I'm going to move to my cash account. My cash is going to be credited for $7,200 because that's what happened on the August 2nd transaction. I've got to move to my cash account in my ledger. So I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to go back to my ledger. I'm going to share it with you. And then I'm going to go to my cash account. And cash is always your first account, so it's going to be up toward the top of your ledger. Notice cash too has a whole lot more transactions involved in it, so it's a little bit bigger for you. You're going to put in the date where you used your cash, which was August the 2nd for this transaction. I'm going to go to my post reference. I'm going to put in journal page 18. I'm going to put in a credit to the cash account for $7,200 because in my journal, I paid cash for rent of $7,200. What cash is doing is it's decreasing. So cash always should have a debit balance because assets increase on the debit side. That's the side of the balance. I'm going to put an equals mark in because I'm going to do a formula. I'm going to click on the previous balance from the last period. And this time I'm going to subtract because my cash is going down on the credit side. And I'm going to click on that credit and press enter. And that's going to do the subtraction for me. So my balance right now in the cash account is $45,300. It went from $52,500 down to $45,300 because we paid out cash for the rent expense. So I'm going to pick up the account number for cash, which is 11. I will stop sharing. And I'm going to do a new screen share. And I'm going to go to my journal. And I'm going to share this with you. And I'm going to put in a 11. Do you see the process of posting? It's going to get monotonous, but we got to do all of these so that we can balance up our transactions. So you just keep doing the same thing over and over again until you're finished. So once again, let me demonstrate another posting to you, and then I'll probably stop sharing with you for a little bit, and then we will come back and finish up the problem. Since this is monotonous, I don't want you to be bored to death with it. I'm just showing you the process of posting. I'm sure that you can do that yourself. It just takes some practice in doing it, just like what I've shown you here. And so we're going to start with I'm going to post one more transaction for you so you'll get a good handle on how we do the posting. And then I'm going to turn you loose with it and let you post some. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to show you how to finish the problem. So bear with me as we jump around a little bit. We're on August the 3rd. We've got cash debited for $83,900. We have a credit to our accounts receivable for $83,900. And again, we already recorded it in the journal, so we're posting it to the ledger now. In this video, we're showing you how to post. So I'm going to have to stop sharing, and I'm going to go to my ledger. And I'm going to go to the cash account, which I'm already there. I'm going to put the new date in, which is the 3rd. This is still coming from post reference 18. This time, my cash was debited in my journal. So I'm going to put on the debit side, $83,900. I have to rebalance my cash account. Remember, cash is an asset account. The increased side of the account is on the debit side of assets. So the balance in all of my asset accounts has to be on the debit side. I'm going to take my previous balance. I'm going to enter a formula in. Take your previous balance, which was $45,300. This time we debited cash, which means that we added to our asset account cash. We added the amount of $83,900 I'm going to hit enter, and that entered a formula there, which added this previous balance and this balance together to get your new cash balance. Then I would pick up my account number, which is 11. I will stop sharing again. I'm going to share my screen with you again, and I'm going to go to my ledger. Oh, I already did the ledger. I'm going to go to my journal this time. Here's your journal. We're going to put in 11 here, and then we're going to move to accounts receivable. Accounts receivable, we're going to find that in our general ledger, and we're going to post it as a credit to the accounts receivable account. So I'm stop sharing with you. I'm going to go back to my ledger. I'm going to share that with you, and I'm going to scroll to accounts receivable. It's on the next line here. I'm going to put down the date from the journal entry. It was the 3rd of August. This is still journal page 18. And then what we did is we credited the account for $83,900. I'm going to balance that account now. And to do that, I'm going to create a formula, put your equal sign in, click on your previous balance. Remember, accounts receivable is an asset account. This previous balance was brought forward into this month from last month. This balance minus, when you credit accounts receivable, you are decreasing an asset. You're going to have to put a minus sign in there, and then click on the credit, and then hit enter. And that will balance this account right now, has $16,200 in it. Pick up your account number, and we've got to flip back to our journal and enter that account number in it. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go back to my journal. I'm going to share that with you, and I'm going to put in the account number of 12. I'll stop sharing for just a second. I'm going to pause my recording, and I'll come back in just a minute. Okay, class, we're going to go back, and I'm going to share my screen with you. I'm going to look at the ledger that we were preparing earlier. So if you'll hold on just a second. Okay, you should be able to see the ledger. And as you can see, I've gone in and I've finished posting to all of my ledger accounts. So the next step in the process is to prepare an unadjusted trial balance. The unadjusted trial balance is in Cengage. And so what you're going to do is you're going to start with your ledger. That's the Excel that I've got opened up here. The ending balance you're going to copy into your trial balance. So for your trial balance, the cash account has a balance, an ending balance of $36,750. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and we're going to go back to Cengage, and we're going to put in the balance for the cash account in the unadjusted trial balance. All right, so we're back at Cengage now. And I'm going to go down to my trial balance. This is the unadjusted trial balance. We're going to start with the first ledger account, which is cash. I'm going to debit that for $36,750. Then I'm going to go back to my ledger and pick up the next account balance. So I'm going to stop sharing with you for a second. We're going back to the ledger. I'm going to share that with you. And the next account balance is accounts receivable at $199,700. That's the ending balance. That's what they want you to pick up and copy to the unadjusted trial balance. We're simply copying each one of the ledger account balances into the unadjusted trial balance. So on my unadjusted trial balance, I'm going to put in my account title, which was accounts receivable. The balance amount is $199,700. And then I'm going to go back to your ledger account and pick up the next account. So the next ledger account balance is prepaid insurance. And prepaid insurance has an ending balance of $24,600. That's where I'm getting the balance from right there. I'm going to copy that into my unadjusted trial balance. So prepaid insurance to go next. And then I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to go back to my ledger account and I'm going to pick up the next balance, which would be to my office supplies, which is $5,550. I'm going to go back to my ledger. You see, it's just the same stuff over and over again. I'll stop sharing with you. I'm going to go back to my ledger. I'm going to pick up the next account balance, which would be your land. Your land balance is $75,000. Stop sharing again. I'll go back to my unadjusted trial balance. I'm going to pick up the land. And it had a balance of $75,000 in there. Notice all of these are asset accounts so far. They all have debit balances. I'm going to go back to my ledger. And the next account that I'm going to pick up is my accounts payable account. Now notice what's different about accounts payable. Remember, it's a liability, and liabilities have normal credit balances. They increase on the credit side. So I'm going to have to pick up this credit to my liability account called accounts payable, and I'm going to put it on the credit side of my unadjusted trial balance. Notice I'm putting it on the credit side at 10,000. Then I'm going to go to my next ledger account. And my next ledger account is unearned rent. Unearned rent's the new account that we talked about today. It's a liability account. It has a credit balance of 5,000. So my unearned rent is going to come next on my unadjusted trial balance. So I'm going to stop sharing this with you. Your unadjusted trial balance is now shared, and the unearned rent is the next account, and the amount was 5,000. And then I'm going to go back to my ledger. Just copying the information from the ledger. My next account is notes payable. It too is a liability, so it should have a credit balance. Notes payable has a credit balance of 67,500. You're only picking up your ending balances and transferring them to the unadjusted trial balance. I'm going to go back to my general ledger and pick up my next account. My next account, let me scroll up a little bit. Bear with me just a second. My computer's running. Come on now. Come on. All right, now it's cooperating. My next account balance is going to be capital. And capital is an owner's equity account. It has a credit balance. It's used for the owner's investment. And that balance came from last month, or might have been even a previous month before that. But notice we didn't do any posting to this ledger account, so there were no additional investments for this time period. But you still have to pick up the balance and put it in the unadjusted trial balance. So this 87,500 has got to go into my capital account in the unadjusted trial balance. Because capital increases on the credit side, 87,500 is going to go over here on the credit side. We're going to go to the ledger accounts. And the next account balance is drawing. Notice your drawing has a debit balance of 45,800. And that's because drawing is treated like an expense. It's got a normal debit balance. It increases on the debit side. The total amount of this drawing will eventually decrease owner's equity on our financial statements. But right now, we're not at that point yet. We're just still copying the ending balances from our ledger to the unadjusted trial balance. So drawing has a debit balance. So we have to put it on the debit side. is $45,800. Then we're going to move to the ledger again. So I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to go back to my ledger account. I'm going to pick up the next account, which is fees earned. Its balance is $775,000. Notice it went back to a credit balance because fees earned increases on the credit side. That's the normal side of its balance. We're picking up $775,000. We got to put it on the credit side of our unadjusted trial balance. Now we're going to go back to our ledger. I'm going to pick up the next account. Our next account after fees earned is salary and commissions expense. I'm going to scroll down again. Just bear with me, I'll try to get there. This is my salary and commissions expense. It's $436,000. So I'm going to put that salary and commission expense of $436,000 on the debit side of my unadjusted trial balance. Expenses go on the debit side of your unadjusted trial balance. I'm going to go back to my ledger. I want to share with you my rent expense of $56,200. And that $56,200 is copied back to the unadjusted trial balance. $56,200 is the debit balance for rent expense. I'm going to go back to my ledger. And the next account is advertising expense. And it has a balance of $40,200. So I'm picking up the balance here. And then I'm going to go back to my ledger. And we're going to pick up automobile expense. And automobile expense was $18,250. And we got one more miscellaneous after that. So you understand you got to flip back and forth to get these balances. So I'm going to stop this screen share. I'm going to go back to our unadjusted trial balance. We're going to put in the automobile expense. which was 18,250. And then the miscellaneous expense goes in as a debit for $69.50. Oops. Now, once we're through copying our ending balances into the unadjusted trial balance, it's always a good idea to check your work. We'll make sure that we don't have, sorry about that, class. I got a bunch of stuff on my screen that needs to be moved. We'll make sure that everything on the unadjusted trial balance is correct, and it is. So I'm going to pull out my calculator now that's on Cengage. Now, believe it or not, my mouse has stopped on me, so I think I probably need a new battery. Well, maybe not. Maybe it'll go for a minute or two more. No, it's gone. Okay. So I just have to hold on just a second, figure out how I can stop sharing this with you for a moment. Okay, I'm gonna pick up my computer thing since my mouse is gone. Let me see if I can pick up the calculator. Yeah, there it is. I'm gonna clear it out. Thank you for bearing with me. I'm going to do the easiest thing I know how to do, which is to add the credit side because there's less to add there. So I'm going to pick up 15,000. Let's see if I can do it this way. 15,000. What I did is I combined both my accounts payable, my unearned rent together. And then I'm going to add to that $67,500. And then I'm going to add to that $87,500. And then I'm going to add to that $775,000. And so let me check and see if this total is right here. I'm putting it at the bottom of the credit side of my unadjusted trial balance. I'm going to put in $945,000. And I'm going to check my work to see if I added those correctly. Yep. So I know that the total of my debit side to my unadjusted trial balance also has to be $945,000. Okay. All right, so my unadjusted trial balance is correct. So that's good. So what we've learned today is how to journalize transactions, how to post them to the ledger, and how to prepare an unadjusted trial balance. That's the most important thing you can learn in this chapter. The rest of this is just what if analysis. And so it says, assume that the August 31st transaction for Cindy Getman's cash withdrawal should have been $10,000 as the result, and the unadjusted trial balance would have been what? Well, if you refer back to that transaction that we had posted for the drawing, you'll notice that we posted it for $1,000. And now they're saying it should have been $10,000. and they're wanting to know what would have happened to the unadjusted trial balance. Well, it would have been incorrect. It would have been wrong. So it will not balance. If that, I'm sorry, it will balance, but let me talk to you about why. It will still balance, but it would not have the correct amounts in the ledger accounts. So because you entered in a debit to the drawing for 1,000 and a credit to the cash account for 1,000, and you copied all that right into the ledger, when you prepared your unadjusted trial balance, it would still balance. But technically, the unadjusted trial balance would have been wrong because your amount should have been something different. So in this next part, it's saying, assume that on August 31st, the transaction for Cindy Getman's cash withdrawal should have been $10,000. Journalize the correcting entry. And so what we would have to do then is, if it should have been 10,000, we would need to add an additional 9,000 to the drawing account. So from the drop-down list, I would select drawing. I would put 9,000 up, not in the post reference. I would put 9,000 in as the debit. And bear with me just a second, because I've got some things going on the line here that you probably can't see, but I can see. So hang on just a second. I'll try to get this out of the way. Oh, okay, maybe that'll work. All right. Now you got to debit the drawing for 9,000, and you would credit your cash for an additional $9,000. And I believe the drawing post reference, you would have posted that to the ledger. And when you posted that to the ledger, the account number would have been 32, if I remember correctly. And my cash would have been account number 11. And then in part C, it says, assume that the August 31st transaction for Cindy Getman's cash withdrawal should have been 10,000. Is this error a transposition or a slide? It's considered to be a slide because you did not add an extra zero in. So you originally recorded 1,000. It should have been 10,000. So this is an example of a slide. If it's a transposition error, you would have reversed some numbers out. So the answer to this blank is that it's a slide. And so I'm going to check my work. And thankfully, everything is correct now. And so we're finished with this particular problem. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm going to stop the recording.